It was an early morning at the local high school. Luke was standing by his locker with his best friend Logan. They were talking about the upcoming match between their school and the nearby town in soccer. Since Luke was the captain of the team, and they were actually just hoping that their school would win this time. You know, Luke, you will make sure that us win this time, aren't you? Well, I've been practicing a lot to be as a captain of the team, but I will give my best. True, said Logan with a smile. And we should probably go now before the bell rings. And sure enough, just a few seconds later, the school bell rang, and they both ran as fast as they could first class. The rest of the school day actually went normal though, but it was until like school around lunch break in the cafeteria. Luke was sitting there with his friends and just talking about the game and or some other small talks that they usually do. And there was something though when Logan brought up the topic, the prom. The school prom was going to happen within the next 2 weeks, and the other most of the guy their friends had already found a date, probably used mostly their girlfriend to the prom. Even Logan actually had taken his was going to take his girlfriend to the prom. But Luke though, he was only one of his friends was single, and he hadn't even chosen anyone to go to the prom yet. But there was many some of the guys that had actually thought that he was going to take Sarah. Sarah was actually the popular girl in the school and has her own gang of friends, and she was even the cheerleader of the school. Even though that Luke knew that Sarah had a crush on him, even given hints from time to time that she had a crush on him, but he was already aware of that. Even though that, but he was glad at least that she had even asked him to be her boyfriend, because he has never been interested in Sarah in it, at least at all. But during this lunch break though, Sarah and her friends walked up to them and just smiled and said, "Well, Luke, I have to ask you something. Yeah, what is it? The prom is in there about the next 2 weeks, and I was curious. Have you made a decision who you want to take as a date to the prom yet?" And Luke was then realized that this was a hint that she hoped she was shown that he will take her to the prom. But he said, "No, I hadn't even really decided yet. I mean, but the most talk about the game, so I'm sorry, I hadn't even decided yet. And after all, there's just 2 weeks left for that. So, but I hope to have made my decision soon." And she smiled, and then they all left. "You know that Sarah wants to try is trying to make you to choose her for the prom," Logan said. "Yeah, I know," said Luke, rolled his eyes, and said, "I know that she wants me to pick her, but now I have no interest in her. You know, if you don't tell her that, she may not even to be as happy though." "I know," said Luke. Even though that Luke realized and remembers the last time Sarah did had a boyfriend, or so-called boyfriend at all. It was a guy that he knew from the school that already had only finished high school, was only 1 year a senior. It turns out when Sarah did ask him about to be her boyfriend, which he was actually glad to be then, because she was very gorgeous, she was very popular among the girls and the kids at the school. But when he found out, she only used him so to make other guys jealous, so they wanted to date her. When he found out, he comforted her. He told her right in the hallway that he knew that she was only using him, and it was over between them, and that he didn't want to see her or talk to her ever since. And from what last time he heard, when he the senior finished high school, he was very gladful that he had never had to see Sarah ever again. After though, after lunch break, just before the last class though, Sarah, Luke was walking in the hallway and he saw that a group of people was standing in around someone. And he saw it was actually Sarah and her friends. And there was a girl between them, around them. They were surrounding a girl that he had never seen before. But he overheard them saying something like, "Oh, you're a new girl here. Oh, a geeky one, a loser. You know, you shouldn't go into this school. This school is only for popular, cool kids. Nerds ones go to their different school. Why you even get here, though? Said, you're such a loser." And every one of her Sarah's friends just laughed. And before they left, though, one of the girls smashed her hands over this girl's books, and they fall to the ground, and they just laughed and they would keep walking. And after that, though, and even though Sarah's friends didn't even see that Luke saw all that happened. And it was one thing that Sarah didn't even know, that Luke absolutely hated bullies. Because when he was in elementary and to middle school, he was bullied. And he absolutely hated about to be bullied and others to even being bullied. So, in that respect, even his best friend Logan also absolutely hated bullies. Because they both were bullies in the same time. Since they had been best friends since the first grade, they were like brothers. Even they've been taught by both their families to respect and treat others with the same and not to be a bully. Always stand up and protect their friends if any needed. And after Sarah had left, Luke walked up to this girl and actually picked up some of the books that she had dropped on the floor and handed over. "Hi, sorry about that. That was Sarah and her friends. They will always be like that. I'm sorry about that. My name is Luke, and you're new here?" She just nodded and said, "Yeah, I was newly transferred here." "Oh, well, I hope you like the school though. Not everyone is a bully like Sarah and her friends. My advice, try to avoid them as much as you can. It's best that if that they probably stay away from you. By the way, what your name is?" And she said her name, but she was more like a whisper. "I'm sorry, I didn't hear it." "Alicia," she said with a smile, and said thanks, and walked away. Luke hurried first to attend his last class before it was over. Even after school, though, when Luke and Logan walked to his car. "You know, I actually saw some girl at the school, though, that I never saw before." "Really? Who?" "A girl by the name Alicia." "Alicia?" said Logan. "Doesn't ring a bell. I don't know any girl with that name here." "No, she is apparently a new transfer here," said Luke. "Oh, that makes sense." And she was surrounded by Sarah and her friends. Logan just shook his head. "Why would she have to pick on every single new student in here?" said Logan. "Beats me," said Luke. "You know how she is." "Yeah, that's true," said Logan. "Well, that's my mom. See you later." "Bye, Logan." But as Luke was standing by his car, he actually saw that the girl, Alicia, was standing by the sidewalk. And he drew up to her and asked, "Are you going somewhere?" And she saw it was actually Luke. And she said that she missed the school bus. And since her parents were working and couldn't even pick her up, and since there were no other buses that was going in her direction, he did actually offer to drive her home, even though that Alicia had not doesn't even know Luke or if he could be a bully as well. But what option did she had? Since if she had to walk for maybe about almost a half hour. But Luke offered her to drive her home, and she did. So on their way back onto her home, he asked her how she liked the school so far and if she had any friends. She did say that she did like the school and she had made a few friends, which Teardrop has happy for, even though that she had ran into Sarah and her friends a couple of times. While they were outside her home, though, Luke said, if you need any help or anything, or maybe drive back to school, you can always give me a call or text me. And he wrote down a piece of paper and his number and gave it to her. She smiled as a thanks. And for the next couple of days, the game was on. The game between Luke's school and the next town over, they were actually having the big game. And it was nearly the game was over, and it seems that Luke's school was about to lose. But at the last minute, Luke managed to push right the last goal, and his school won. Luke was actually cheered with along his friends at the even audience was cheering on their victory. And he saw that Alicia was at the school, at the audience with her parents. He waved to her and she waved back. But even though that Sarah was also there and she believed that he was waving to her and he didn't even saw her. But a few days later at the school during a lunch break, Sarah walked up to the table where Luke and his friends were sitting. And she just casually said, Luke, that game was actually awesome. Yeah, even though I was very supposed, I thought we were even to lose that game. But you know that we made a win, though, said Logan in the background. True, said Luke. So, Luke, there's one thing I want to ask you, though, she said. Oh, what is it? The prom is only about a week from now, and I'm curious if you had made your decision yet who was going to take for prom. Oh, no, I had totally forgot about it. But no, um, you know what? I will give you the answer on Monday. Is that okay? Sure. And she left with a smile with her friends, and Logan looked at Luke. Are you considering going with her to the prom? No, I don't know yet. But is there anyone else you're going with? No? Why do you think that? I'm just curious, said Logan with a smile. Anyways, let's enjoy their lunch. And even after lunch, though, that was actually the before the last class on Friday, which were a Friday this time. He actually enjoyed the last class though. But after class, he and Logan walked up to his car, and they said goodbye as usual. And suddenly, before he was about to start the car, he heard a knock on the window. He saw, turned around, and was expecting to see Sarah, but it wasn't her, or none of her friends. It was actually Alicia. He opened the window and asked, "What is it, Alicia? Can I help you with something?" "Yeah, I missed the bus again." "Oh, well, hop in. I can drive you home." "Thanks." And even now they have been talked about for a few times over time, though. He is starting to get to know more about her. The reason why suddenly that she was transferred because she was very bullied in her last school. She couldn't even stand it anymore. And even when she told her parents, they tried to make the school to stop the bullying. And even though with the help of teachers, and it didn't work. The bullies would target her over and over, and the pranks get even more cruel ever. She didn't want to specify exactly what type of cruel pranks they made, but one of them had made her drop a bucket of water over her head in class, or make her somehow that hide her pants or the skirt in the school, so she had to walk around without any. And he was just almost spread in his face, but calm down. And after that, he drove her home and said goodbye to each other. But on Saturday, though, since he didn't have any other thing to do, and since Logan was busy with himself, so Luke actually called Alicia and asked if she wanted to do something. And she said yes. So he drove over to her home, and Sarah's and Alicia's parents was actually home because they were not even aware that Alicia had made a guy friend. So when a guy knocked on the door, they was just surprised and asked, "Yes, can I help you?" "Yes, is Alicia home?" "You know my daughter?" "Yeah, my name's Luke. We go to the same school. I drove her home a couple of times from school." "Alicia never mentioned that." "Oh?" And then suddenly Alicia walked down the stairs and she realized her mom opened the door and she looked at her and said, "Alicia, do you know him?" "Yeah, that is Luke. We go to the same school together." "He said that he drives you home?" "Yeah, he does, or at least a couple of times." And then she turned around and welcomed in. So he sat down in the living room. Next to her was her parents and Alicia. Her parents weren't strict anyway. They were just surprised that a guy was had actually been friend towards Alicia. They want just want to know exactly that more about Luke though. So when he told that he was the team captain at the soccer game and at the school that he was, they were actually surprised though. They remember seeing him at the school game, but they were actually happy that Alicia had made a new friend. So when they left the school together, left the home, they were just out for a walk or something like that. But after one day, they returned home to Alicia's home. He then asked her, "Can I ask you something?" "Yeah, you can." "You know, have you been asked by anyone for a prom yet?" She shook her head and said, "No." And I wasn't sure if I wasn't even going. "Well, I don't know, but do you want to be my date for the prom?" She was actually shocked. She didn't know or even expect it. Then Luke asked her out for the dinner prom though, but she smiled and said yes. So they actually gave each other a hug, and then the rest of the weekend went normal. But it was, he knew that his life would change a lot more difficult on Monday. But he was actually proud that he'd chosen Alicia as his date. On Monday, during lunch break, during an IFA cafeteria, Sarah and her friends walked up to Luke and his friends as he predicted they would do, and she asked, "So, Luke, have you made your decision?" Luke looked at Logan and his friends, and they weren't even aware that he had picked someone already. But and he said, "Yes, I have." "Oh, and no, Sarah, I'm not choosing you for this whole prom." "What? Why?" "I know you have a crush on me, and I'm sorry to tell you this, but I had never been interested in you." She was shocked. All this time, she believed that Luke had an interest in her. Even he was just too shy to tell. "So, who are you taking to the prom, though?" Luke was silent for a moment, but he said, "I'm taking Alicia to the prom." "Alicia?" Cyril asked. She wasn't even sure who exactly it is. But just then, she realized. "The new girl?" she said. That's right. She lost it. She screamed, "Why are you picking her and not me?" And Luke stood there for only a moment and said, "The reason why I'm picking Alicia as my date to prom, because she's a nice and kind girl. You, you're not the same. You have been bullying others, and I absolutely hate bullies. And that is the reason why. You know, Sarah, since you don't respect others as they should be, you may have this, but I would have taken you as my date to the prom. But as since you treat others like this, I would never even want to be with you. And after all, I was never interested in you in the first place. I only want to be your boyfriend. Since you have been a bully, and I absolutely hate bullies," said Luke. And Sarah just stood there, so shockingly, and had no other words. And just before she could say anything, Luke stood up and just walked away, and his friends did the same. And Sarah just saw that everyone else in the cafeteria looked at her, and just screamed, "What are you looking at?" And as she was about to walk away herself, she tripped, and as she stood up, everyone was laughing at her. "Don't laugh at me!" And she walked away with her friends. And of course, and after school was over, Luke walked out to his car when he saw that someone was sitting next to it. And it was actually Alicia. "Alicia, are you okay?" She looked at him and she was crying. "What happened?" What? And was Sarah and his friends, she said, quietly. "What did they do?" And she explained that as she was just after the bell had rang for the day over, she was getting ready to pick her books and go home. And Sarah's friends surrounded her to make sure that couldn't go away. And Sarah stood there grinning and said and screaming, "How dare you to take the boy that I love?" And Alicia, was not even aware what she even meant. And she tried to explain it, but Sarah didn't believe her. In her eyes, in her mind, Alicia and Luke had been secretly dating ever since the game, or something like that. And even that she tried to explain, they weren't even dating at all. But Sarah didn't believe her. So Sarah grabbed her and smashed her with the back towards the lockers and said, "I never like you. Just stay away from me." And she just walked away with her friends. After that, Alicia grabbed a backpack and ran out of school and sat down next to Luke's car, hoping that he would be there soon. She was afraid if Sarah and her friends would just go back and try to scream at her again. But this went too far. "Luke," he said, "I'm gonna find her." "No, don't. I don't want to get you in trouble." "Luke, look, I don't care if I was expelled from school. I'm not gonna harm her. I need to talk to her. It's not worth it though. You know that she will never stop if you try to talk to her though." "Oh, I'm not gonna talk to her though. The principal. You know, just ignore her until like you said," he said. "You may right. But it's not worth it." So he gave her a handkerchief and she said, "You know, I'm actually proud that I will actually take you to the prom though. But is it worth to go to prom if she's going? You know, I don't even care if she's going to the prom her own or nothing or trying to make me jealous, which she's never going to do. Because I love you." She was shocked. "Are you serious?" and he smiled and nodded. Yeah, ever since I saw the first time in the hallway, I actually thought that you were really something special about you. You were really cute, and I never liked that, and anything like it. And then he leaned forward and kissed her, but she didn't get away from him. She actually kissed him back. And they actually went back to Luke's car. They sat down in his car, and he instead took her to his home so they can spend the rest of the day together. Alicia did call her parents, at least her mom, telling where she was going to be for the next couple of hours. And her mom was actually not a problem with that, since Luke has always been very respectful to her and her family. So, and about a week later, or about a few days later, the prom happened. And, of course, Luke went there with Alicia in a red dress and in a suit. Even though that he saw Sarah by her friends completely alone, and none of them didn't had any dates. And it turns out, after what happened, the girls who had that Sarah's friends actually had a date or a boyfriend heard about this. They either broke up or decided to just didn't want to go with them as a date anymore. Sarah, she was still furious, even though she was standing across the hall the other side across the room. It's like staring daggers against Alicia and Luke. And in fact, the same night at the prom, Sarah did find out they were now a couple, and that made her even more furious. But Luke told her afterwards if he sees her being treating his girlfriend in such bad way again, he will tell the principal. And the principal is one man in the school who doesn't tolerate bullying at any cost. And Sarah knew that. And from that day on, she backed off. And literally, she didn't even glare at Luke or Alicia ever since. And after though, when they both finished high school, they went both to the different college. But they kept in touch each other over mails and even met on holidays. But their love for each other remained strong, and they didn't bother if they had been in a long distance relationship. And after the finally was done with college, Luke Luke moved back to their hometown, and even though that Alicia already had finished her college and had already moved back home, she was staying with her parents for a while before she found her own apartment. And eventually, she even asked Luke to move in, and which he did. But ever since college, though, Luke and Alicia did wonder what happened to Sarah. Well, it turns out after that she finished high school, she went to a different state where she completed her college and remained there, and eventually got married with a guy from college. And she apparently, at least, she was happy to have found her true love. She even had reached out to Luke and apologized for her behavior in high school and hoped that maybe they could be friends at least. Even though Luke was very skeptical about it, but he agreed. And he didn't change his mind because when he saw that Sarah actually with her new husband and their two daughters together, he was happy for her. And eventually, Luke and Alicia, they even got married. And they even had a daughter which they named Jessica. And only about 2 years later, they had a son which they named Elliot, after Alicia's grandfather. And they even had a daughter only about 3 years later, which is named Serena, after Luke's grandmother, or after his paternal grandmother. Luke was really happy that that he finally met someone all those years ago in high school. He was actually happy to have met his high school sweetheart. Even though that when he told his parents about Alicia when they started being dating, his parents was actually happy though that he stood up for her, protected her from being bullied. And of course, they were even skeptical that Luke remained in touch with this former bully, but they would actually accept that she even had moved on from her past life. And this is how Luke and Alicia on the true love got a big family together. The end.